Greetings and salutations, everyone. I'm Ekamak. This is Let's Play of the Devil. In the last episode, we got a game over. I'm sorry, but the AD-84 here has decided that they're guilty or whatever. Well, not really. We've gotten into court. We haven't actually done any court things yet, but it's kind of... But we'll get to that this episode. This is my second take on this, so unfortunately I do know all the answers. Something I didn't catch until editing. The agitator has a nickname, AD. Although, since you pronounce it the same as those first two initials... Yeah. Anyhow, yeah, let's get started. Your Honor.
Wait, what the flip? This defendant's already dead. Why are we doing this? Is this a debug thing? Because I'll log the error if I need to.
No, Your Honor, this is a preliminary hearing to determine whether David Asher did in fact commit suicide as he...
I get it. You want to make sure he wasn't cuckoo in the cranium before you cut up his will like a T-bone?
I didn't realise the adjutants were so lively.
They aren't. They're supposed to...
No, that's my line. They aren't. They're supposed to be austere and statuesque. Looks like we got served the most in need of repairs adjutant the court system could find. Whatever paper pusher we rushed to get this trial going must have wanted to do a little payback for the kindness.
What's that look for? Could it be you're... trying to size me up?
Wouldn't dream of it, Your Honor.
Good, because if you have any doubts about my ability to run this trial, I could always just enact summary judgment here and now. I'm sure you'll find my ruling to be fair and even-handed.
That won't be necessary, Your Honor. She's much more of a character than I'm used to seeing up there, even counting all the flesh and blood judges I've met. But she's still just an adjutant. She'll follow the evidence where it leads. So long as I can make a few adjustments for the occasional outburst from the bench, my plan's still workable.
So, people, shall we get started with that first witness?
Right away, Your Honor. The people call Dr. Yumi Sato to the stand. Yeah, we all remember the coroner. It's Yumi. Hey.
So, how about it, pretty lady? You swear to tell the whole and unadulterated truth to the best of your ability?
I had such a hard time with that word unadulterated. It kept getting jumbled up. I do.
Good enough for me.
Dr. Sato, you were in charge of the autopsy for David Asher, were you not? I was. And when did you make your examination? I started last night. Well, technically 1 AM would be very early this morning. I think you can still say last night if we are talking about 1 in the morning. Objection! The defense will have their opportunity to cross-examine. Until then, they should refrain from making errant remarks. The hell? All I was...
Yeah, what she said.
You mean sustained?
Don't get cute with me, counsellor. Being cute is my job.
God damn, we've barely gotten started. That seemed pretty bad, Adenoir. Halt! Heads up! Making mistakes will increase your blind. Blind is how much credit you'll lose for answering incorrectly when you yourself aren't controlling the ante. Blind increments on its own throughout the trial as the stakes get higher, but resets at the end of the day. Blind starts at and caps out at a higher number if you're playing in High Roller. Mind the blind number in the top left when it appears. It helps you gauge what you stand to lose. Kind of interesting thing about this little card here. You can actually see that the top Morgan has the bright red eyes and the underneath the Morgan has the black soulless eyes. I thought that was interesting. We should try to avoid being penalized in the future. Thanks for the tip. Shake it off. I'll get my chance to raise objections of my own soon enough. Dr. Sato, were you able to determine the cause of death? He passed away due to respiratory failure. Could you explain what that means to the court? Essentially, he wasn't getting enough oxygen into his blood. It seems by the time he arrived at the hospital, he was no longer breathing. What does respiratory failure look like? What are the symptoms? There would be lightheadedness, dizziness, fainting, pale skin, and a bluish tinge around certain extremities. And the condition he was in matched those symptoms? Correct. In your experience, what are the most common cause of respiratory failure? It can be caused by injury or disease, but the subject had no wounds or reported illnesses and otherwise appeared to be perfectly healthy. And what else could cause respiratory failure then? It's also commonly seen in fatal drug overdoses. Drug overdoses? Did you perform a tox screen on Dr. Asher? Yeah, but his tox screen came back clean. Whatever killed him, it wasn't something we've encountered before. Wait a second. A clean tox screen? Clean? Heads up. Dialogue will proceed automatically during testimony, but you can still choose to advance text manually with continue. You'll need to read carefully and wait for the witness to make the statement that sounds wrong. Then hit the call button to call their bluff. Hover over the call button or toggle Insight to focus on the claims within a witness statement. Insight can be disabled in settings. Testimony will loop until you call. Can't let this chance slip by. I need to catch her the mistake the second it comes out of her mouth. I don't like this system because it does something that isn't good for me. So we have 3 pieces of evidence that we're going to get a chance to use. Unfortunately, we never get to see those again until we actually call. The subject passed away due to respiratory failure. Essentially, he wasn't getting enough oxygen into his blood. He would have experienced lightheadedness, dizziness, then fainting. As the subject was healthy, the respiratory failure must be attributed to a drug overdose. But when a tox screen was run at the hospital, it came back clean. It was puzzling, to say the least. Something she said now doesn't make sense. I have evidence that directly contradicts her. I should just find the right moment to present it. The other thing that makes this really annoying is that when we do actually call, tox screen is wrong. We only get a few seconds. After choosing to call on a statement, you need to respond with evidence. Look over the 3 cards that show up. Confirm your card before the timer runs out. This is not fair. We have to hit with whiskey. Wanna bet? It's impossible for David Asher's tox screen to be clean, and we all know it. Since he was on camera drinking alcohol the night that he died.
Aha!
Oh no, that's a panic. Oh, I don't know.
That makes sense. And that scared you?
No, the green ones are mine. And that scared you? The witness merely misspoke, Your Honour. As it plainly states on the tox report itself, Dr. Asher did have alcohol in his blood, but not at such a concentration to be lethal. Yeah, my bad. When I said the tox screen was clean, that just meant it didn't tell the attending physicians anything they didn't already know. Overall, a little more nitpicky than I like to be, but at least I was able to balance the momentum, more or less. Shall we continue, Dr. Sato? If the tox screens were negative for pharmaceuticals and drugs, what caused Dr. Asher's respiratory failure? During my autopsy, I analysed his blood and was able to isolate a foreign compound. So there was a lethal dose of a drug inside his body. It just happened to be a drug that the hospital had never encountered before. That's correct. I think we're all going to get tired pretty fast if we don't at least pick up a placeholder name for this substance, Your Honour. The people don't object, Your Honour.
In that case, I'll put all of my creative heuristics to work coming up with an original scientific fitting name for this substance. A name like Omega. Omega-3.
That name is already taken.
Fine. Call it Delta, or whatever.
Delta, used in science to denote an unknown variable. Not bad. Delta has other meanings when it comes to drugs, but yeah, Delta matches no known public pharmacology or toxicology records. That being said, chemically it does have all the hallmarks of a general depressant.
I know that feeling.
So it stands to reason that it would exhibit a similar effect on the body when ingested. You say ingested. Why? I eliminated all other possibilities during my examination of the body. He must have swallowed it. Judging from stomach contents, it must have been a liquid. Thank you, Dr. Sato. Shall I summarize things for the court?
Yes, please. I wasn't listening that closely.
The victim died of respiratory failure, and his tox screens show that his blood was clear of anything that could cause respiratory failure, except for this unknown substance, the poison we've labelled Delta.
Well, that sounds like a textbook suicide. Should we wrap it up here?
Not quite yet, Your Honour. This may clearly be a poisoning, but there's at least one detail about this case that doesn't feel like a suicide at all. Okay. Ugh. Darn it, I probably should have saved before I got to this point. Died from an unknown substance that matches. Can I look at the backlog again? I know that I got the answer for this one before, but I've already forgotten. It can't be the whiskey twice in a row, can it? The people shouldn't get ahead of themselves. There's nothing textbook about a supposed suicide that had a witness sitting there watching it happen. As you say.
Well, now I'm lost. Was this poisoning a suicide or not?
If that's the case, perhaps we should give the defense the opportunity to cross-examine. Unless they're going to insist on testifying themselves. How kind of you to offer. Ball's in my court now. How do I counter? Emma's argument basically goes as follows. David ingested the Delta knowingly. The Delta causes respiratory failure. He died of respiratory failure. Thus David committed suicide. Heads up! During blackjack, every piece of information you learn deals you a card. Choose only the questions that are logical and relevant, and only press if you think a line of questioning is worth continuing. Or else you'll go bust and lose credit. Select press option to see what the follow-up questions would be. You can only win blackjack when you reach exactly 21. So don't press further if you're already there. Don't ask the wrong questions. With my cross-examination, I need to put a microscope over the weakest part of that argument and hope that some cracks appear under pressure. Alright, so I do believe I remember this one. I don't know if order matters, so let's experiment and do this in an opposite order to the way I did it last time. Are you sure it was ingested? Dr. Sato, you said that the subject had to have ingested the Delta orally. But how sure can we actually be about that? Pretty sure. I mean, I could go into detail about all the cavities that I checked, but... Was it knowingly ingested? But how can we be sure that the subject ingested the Delta knowingly? Well, we can't be sure of that. Certainly not just from an autopsy. You said it must have been a liquid, yes? Would it have been a large amount? Depends on the concentration of the delivery solution. It could have just been a drop. The kind of thing that could easily go unnoticed, yes? Cause for speculation, Your Honor. Withdrawn.
Oh man, I wanted to jump on her case.
Are you sure Delta is to blame? Dr. Sato, you were only able to even identify the presence of this Delta after hours of work. Can you really be sure that this never-before-seen chemical can cause respiratory failure? Well, I have had time to run simulations and they do give every indication that it would act as a depressant. Just enough of any depressant and respiratory failure would occur. Only simulations? You've ran simulations. So you haven't tested Delta on an actual person? No, I haven't. That would be very difficult to do given our extremely limited sample. Not to mention highly unethical, of course. But without such a test you don't actually know for sure that Delta can cause any of the symptoms you've described. Was there a question in that statement, Counselor? You don't actually know for sure, do you? No, not yet anyway. Seemed like that's... blackjack. Thank you for your time, Dr. Sato. We all appreciate it. But it does seem we're still in the dark about many details regarding Dr. Ash's death, wouldn't you say? Well, poisoning via the compound we're calling Delta is still the most likely explanation. So there are other explanations for what happened? Defense is calling for speculation, Your Honor. It's not speculation when a medical examiner is attempting to explain the cause of death, Your Honor.
The witness will answer the question.
I love that sulk. She's so animated for a robot. Well, respiratory failure can be caused by illnesses. If he had undiagnosed pneumonia or some other disease and his respiratory system was weakened, undiagnosed pneumonia with his level of healthcare, it's technically possible. I'll take it. I have no more questions for this witness. That felt weak, but I can't be picky when I'm stalling for time. Seeding doubt wherever I can, however I can, is just about all I can manage. Detective Reyes, you were one of the leads in investigating this crime. Yeah, ma'am. And did you interview the EMTs who first arrived on the scene? I did. 80 is still very much in a sulk. They responded to an emergency signal from the home security console located in the kitchen. What did they find when they arrived on the scene? The victim was unconscious on the floor's parlor. He was receiving CPR from a witness, the individual who had called them. They were both airlifted to Gacefield Memorial Hospital, and Dr. Asher was declared dead shortly after arriving there. She's actually handling herself pretty well up on the stand. I half expected her to roll her eyes during the swearing in. But when you take into consideration her love for boot heel authority, she might be right at home here in the courtroom, the very seat of the state's power over the people. The witness met with the deceased about half an hour before he fell ill, from 7:30 to 8 p.m. The two of them talked for some time and shared a drink. Shortly after, Dr. Asher became distracted, lightheaded, and eventually non-responsive. And during the same time period, drinking the same liquor, this witness exhibited no symptoms themselves? None. Through a collaborative effort with Noble Electronics Security Division, we searched the entire building, but we found nothing unusual in any of the food or drink on the premises, including the bottle that the witness and the deceased drank from. So what was your ultimate conclusion after investigating the scene? The whiskey bottle was clean, the witness's drink was clean. The only person who got sick was Dr. Asher, drinking from a cup he had prepared. So it was our determination that David Asher committed suicide by poisoning himself. She's pretty tight-lipped up there, but I think she slipped up just once. And I think this is where I'm going to cut the episode. Definitely shorter than usual, but I already kind of knew what was going on. I originally got very stumped on that witness cross-examination back then. But anyway, until next time guys, take care. We'll see you all around.